My name is Councillor Susan Downing and I am the chair of this committee. I will shortly ask all members of the committee to introduce themselves and state the ward that they represent. For members of the public who will be addressing the committee this evening, the procedure for determining each application has been published on the Council's Committee Management Information. Before we start the meeting, there are a few important housekeeping rules to explain. Speaking at this meeting remains at my discretion as chair, and only these people who have registered in advance to speak will be allowed to. All participants must keep their microphone on mute until invited to speak by me. This helps to avoid interference from background noise. When invited to speak, members and officers must turn their cameras on. Members of the public addressing the committee may choose to leave their cameras off if they do not want their image recorded. Members and officers must use the raise hand function to indicate that you want to speak. If you do not have this function on your device, please instead type a cue into the meeting chat. The meeting chat is strictly for members and officers' use only. If at any point the meeting becomes inchorus or we're experiencing technical issues, I will adjourn whilst the issues are resolved. Should any member lose connection during the meeting, they will not be allowed to vote on the application under discussion at that time. I will now open the meeting and apologise for the delay and hand over to the Democratic Service Officer to announce apologies for absence under agenda item 1 and ask each committee member to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Chair. I have apologies from Councillor Sharon Davis and Councillor Gurdesh Gill. Can I just ask Councillor Heavican to introduce herself and the ward that she represents?
Good evening, I'm Councillor Sandra Heavican, Vice Chair of the Planning Committee and I represent Tividale.
Thank you. Councillor Ahmed?
Councillor Ahmed, Zahar Ahmed, representing St Paul Ward.
Thank you. Councillor Allen?
Councillor Peter Allen, representing the Great Bridge Ward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chidley?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Councillor Chidley and I represent Precinct Ward.
Thank you. Councillor Dalu?
Councillor Dalu, Western Centre Ward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pamela Hughes?
Hello, I'm Councillor Pam Hughes and I represent Wensbury South.
Thank you. Councillor Hussain?
Councillor Mushtaq Hussain, representing Albury Ward.
Councillor Jones?
Hi, Councillor Ian Jones. I represent Tipton Green Ward.
Councillor Mabina?
It's Councillor Tabitha Mabina. I represent Blakey Ward.
Councillor Miller?
Hello, I'm Kay Miller, Councillor for Hatley Heath Ward.
Councillor Rowe?
Yeah, Councillor Rowe, representing Sohan Victoria Ward.
And Councillor Sims?
Councillor Sims, representing Friar Park Ward.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Agenda item 2, declaration of interest. Do any members have interest to declare on any of the matters before the committee today? Councillor Overcombe.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I need to declare an interest in DC 20644669, Unit 12, Block B, Brunswick Trading Estate, Friar Park, Wensbury. I am a resident.
Thank you. Any other declarations? Councillor Ralph.
Yeah, basically, same application. We received the email from the Rob Heavican. So, we councillor received this email. So I just want to make sure, we declare the interest.
Councillor, that would be lobbying, which we will ask you to declare at the start, before we get to that application on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'm Mr. Bandel. I'm the owner of the property, Brunswick Park.
Right.
Just councillors, we're on at the moment. Mr. Bandel, we'll call you when it's time for you to address the committee.
That's fine.
Thank you. Agenda item 3, minutes. Are the minutes of the meeting held on the 7th of October moved as a correct record? Please may I have
Move it.
seconder?
Councillor Peter Allen, second that.
Can you take one of the councillors, Steph, as seconding?
Yes, councillor, I've got Councillor Dalu and Councillor Allen. Thank you.
Right. And do I have the consensus of the committee that the minutes are an accurate record?
Aye.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, Chair.
Yes,
Yeah.
Chair.
Thank
In
you.
that case, then we go to agenda item 4, planning application DC/20/64517. Proposed demolition of existing entrance, subdivision of existing retail unit class A1, together with external alterations. New shop frontage and cladding, mezzanine floor in unit 1, creation of ancillary external garden centre area for unit 2, construction of extension to form new unit for assembly and leisure use class D2, and construction of a standalone cafe stroke drive-through restaurant with associated landscaping and alterations to existing car park and internal vehicle circulation. Former Toys R Us, Wolverhampton Road, Albury. Can any members please indicate whether they have been lobbied on this occasion? None? Thank you. John, do we have any updates for this application, please?
Yeah, good evening, Chair. Good evening, members. Just the one, Chair. Following further comments from colleagues in public health, we're recommending a further condition, condition 13. We just want to seek details clarifying the design of the proposed acoustic fence that would border the southeastern boundary of the site, which is next to the existing hotel on the Wolverhampton Road. That's all, Chair. Thank you.
Right, thank you, John. There are no objections, objectors registered to speak. The applicant, Mr. Bandel and Mr. Beale, have registered to speak. Do you wish to speak, gentlemen? Mr. Bandel or Mr. Beale?
Yes, we will. Jason's only about 5 minutes away, Mr. Beale. He's just running.
Chair, sorry to talk across you there, Chair. We're talking about the Toys R Us application, but Mr. Bandel is here for the Brunswick Park Road application.
Yes. I've got the correct names then on my my list. Right.
Yeah, mine's regarding Brunswick.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Sorry, Mr. Green.
Mr. Green. Sorry about that, Mr. Bandel.
No problem.
Mr. Green.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Chair.
Right, you have 5 minutes, Mr. Green.
Thank you, Chair. You happy for me to begin?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is David Green. I'm from Delta Planning. We're the agents for the planning application. And thanks for giving us the opportunity to speak to you tonight. It's with great pleasure that I'm able to speak to you this evening, actually, regarding the really good news story that surrounds this application. As you'll all be aware, this site has been empty for over 2.5 years now, following the collapse of Toys R Us in 2018. The site's begun to look a rather sorry state, and it started to somewhat blight this important entrance to the borough. Our clients, Horton Estates, have acquired the site off the Toys R Us administrators and are fully committed to investing in it. bringing it back to life and reinvigorating this gateway location. For those of you who don't know of Hortons Estates, if I can just say a few words about them. They're one of the oldest property investors in the Midlands, having been around for well over 125 years now, and they remain to this day an independent, family-owned business. Amongst their more well-known assets they hold is the Grand Hotel on Birmingham's Colmore Row, that you'll be aware has been through a big restoration recently and about to open. Hortons also own the Burlington Hotel on New Street in Birmingham and the flagship Apple store next door. The company's also got retail and commercial assets across Wolverhampton and Cannock, Walsall and Coventry. So they're a major player in the Midlands, and the decision by Hortons to acquire this site and invest in this site, we think is a big confidence booster to Samwell. The plans, as you'll see, have a few components. Firstly, it's proposed to refurbish fully, both internally and externally, the old Toys R Us building. We'll be splitting it into 2 units to create creating a new high-quality shopfront. I'm not able, because of commercial confidences, to advise the names of the tenants, but I can confirm that Hortons are in advanced discussions with 2 very interested retailers to take these units. And I'm sure that with the benefit of planning in place, those retailers will have the confidence to sign up. The second element is a new unit, which will be designed to match the refurbished store, and that's earmarked for leisure use. Hortons have had some discussions with gym operators for this building, but in the current pandemic, these discussions are particularly hard to progress, which you'll understand, but we are hopeful that they'll sign in due course. And the final component is a new drive-through cafe for the site frontage. This would complement the existing restaurant, the McDonald's restaurant that's already there. This has a confirmed operator, I'm pleased to say, but again, I'm not at liberty to disclose the names this evening. I can confirm that if planning is approved, Hortons are committed to commence the development immediately and plan to have the main construction completed by autumn 21. So the investment proposed here is immediate and imminent. It would represent about £11.5 million investment. And based on standard employment ratios, we're looking at about 75 jobs from this development. So it's a good news story. In relation to the policy issues discussed in your officer's report, I have to say we're pleased they're recommending approval, but we don't quite follow why the application is considered a policy departure. This is a well-established retail site, and we've satisfied the retail policy requirements, and there's no objection from policy officers. So we don't see any conflicts. Indeed, it's worthy of note that the original planning approval for this site back in 1987 approved some 7,000 square metres of retail floor space here.
Just 1 minute left, Mr. Green.
Thank you. Toys R Us, so 7,000 was approved originally. Toys R Us building's only 4,200. We're proposing an additional 2,000 or so. So even with our development, it's still less than the original consent from 1987. So the lawful position's clear. There is no policy conflict. You'll see there's no technical objections, and importantly, there's no objections from any members of the public. So we hope you'll support this proposal and the investment in the district that it represents. And thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Green. John, you're to advise whether Highways Public Health need to address the committee.
Right, thank you, Chair. I'm not entirely sure that they do on this occasion, Chair. We've got no objections from Highway colleagues, and the feedback we've had from Public Health has resulted in the extra condition that's proposed. So, notwithstanding that, there's nothing else to add at this moment in time.
Right, thank you. Then we'll go straight on to do any members of the committee have any questions? Keith, Alan? Councillor Allen?
Yes.
Councillor Allen?
I have some. Obviously, I think it's a great idea, but obviously we also have a big plan for that piece of land, the island. I don't know whether Simon wants to comment on the fact the work that's going to take place there for a couple of years, and whether that will have an impact on this development, and should the people who have put this development in be aware of what is going to happen, and maybe they may need to tweak what they're doing on the basis that we were having a major piece of roadworks done on that island. So Simon, over to you. I think initially.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, initially we have looked at the transport assessment for this, and I have to say I did pass it on to my modelling colleagues in transportation planning because it's far above my expertise with something that large, and they assure me that it's fine. It works with the new design we've got. It works absolutely fine. Because the entrances aren't changing and the exits, they've already been considered within the draft design for the new Birchley Island improvement, so we have no concerns at all with it. We think it's fine and works alongside that quite well.
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you, Simon. Councillor Dello.
I just want to ask a question to the applicant's agent, Mr. Green. 5.2 on the report, I might have missed it, with regard to the assembly and use of the applicant cannot yet confirm the end use, but it will most likely be a gym for which 24-hour access would be required.
Yes, if that's the question, yes, I can confirm we are talking to a gym operator for the new unit. That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Chidley.
Hello, Chair. It was just in relation, because I do live quite near the proposed site, and the thing is, it's about the tarmac really, and that who would be responsible for doing that, because at the moment the entrance of Birchfield Lane it's really bad, like it's got loads of potholes and stuff like that. So who would be responsible for that?
Mr. Green, would you like to answer that question?
Yes, very happy to. Yes, as part of the development, the car park and all the tarmac will be relayed and resurfaced and brought back to as good as new.
Okay, right, thank you.
Stephanie, Councillor Miller.
Hi, hello. My question then is the Ortons own this land, do they, Mr. Green?
They do. They own it. They bought it off the Toys R Us administrators.
I see. Okay. And the other kind of part B of my question is retail units. I mean, high streets are kind of dying, as it were, in relation to retail. You know, we're all buying online and stuff like that. Do you feel that that's the right way to go at this present time?
Well, they obviously are existing in a planning sense. They already have retail permission, and we're confident that there is still a market for these type of units. Whilst the market is shifting online, there is still some, thankfully, still some shopping in store. And this location, with its presence, we feel is a really good location for that, notwithstanding everything that's going on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Jones.
Hi, it's a question to Mr. Green and possibly officers. Mr. Green, you mentioned that there was a difference of area in the overall scheme of things, and that you couldn't understand why there was that difference. So it might not be your answer that we need. It might be an officer from the council to actually explain what the difference was in the overall schemes area.
I'm happy to start. I mean, I was just making the point that the site was already planned, or originally planned to have much more floor space than it's currently got. That's why it does look a bit of a half-developed site at the moment. You'll be aware. So this scheme is really bringing it up to what it was always meant to be, in terms of. So if there's any concern about it being overdevelopment, we would confirm it's not overdevelopment, because this scheme had already had a much bigger permission granted. It's just that Toys R Us never built out the scheme fully.
John?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. If I could just follow on from Mr Green's comments and hopefully answer Councillor Jones's his question. It probably seems slightly bureaucratic, if I must say, to be honest with you. The problem, the issue that we have, Councillor Jones, is that the wider site is actually allocated within the adopted development plan for employment purposes. Clearly, we're looking at retail uses in this instance, and therefore that constitutes a departure which will need, if members are minded to approve the application this evening, will need to be ratified at the next full council meeting. Just to pick up on Mr Green's points, yeah, absolutely accept what he's saying, and that's why we as officers are more than happy to support the proposal as well. Thank you.
Councillor Chidley.
Hello, thank you, Chair. Yeah, question to David. It says on here that you've got an ancillary external garden centre area unit 2. I don't think I actually saw that on the map. Is that at the front, or is it at the back?
That's at the back, behind one of the units, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right then, thank you.
It is on the plan, Councillor Chidley. It's behind the third unit.
Okay.
Oh, it is on the map.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that going to be used for staff, or is it for the public?
No, that's part of the. So, although I can't give the names, the retailer who's interested in that particular unit would like to have a garden centre with it as well. So it would form part of the retail unit, and it would be for the public to use. So it gives you a bit of a hint as to who it might be, I suppose. But we have to show it on the drawing.
Okay, cool.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I take it there's no more questions then. So can we move to a vote? Can I ask a member of the committee for a motion, please?
Move the report be approved. Chair.
And the seconder, please.
I'll second
Yes, I
that,
second.
Chair.
Okay.
No, I second that, Chair.
Right. Can you please show hands all in favour, please?
Chair, can I just clarify that members are moving the recommendation and voting on the recommendation that is in the report?
That is correct.
Yeah, which is that planning permission is granted subject to referral to full council and the conditions as presented, and that there's no change to that.
No, there's no change to the recommendation.
Thank you. And looking at the hands up, that is unanimous.
Right, thank you very much, members, and Mr Green, their application has been passed, subject to going to full council.
Couple of members hadn't put their hands up.
Did you get everybody, Steph?
Yes, Chair, I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, now we've got everyone, Councillor Dallu.
But just for absolute clarity, are there any members against? So if you've got your hand up, so
Councillor Ralph.
Councillor Hughes and
No.
Councillor Rouse.
No. I'm not against. It was just try to delete that.
Right, okay.
Councillor Dallu, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so it's
Right,
carried. Chair.
okay, so that's carried. Thank you.
Oh, Councillor Hughes, you've got your hand back up again. Councillor Hughes? No, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Right. In that case, then we'll carry on to agenda item 5. Planning application DC/20/64469. Retention of use as storage or distribution class B8 and small scale car repairs and servicing class B2. Old Waterworks Unit 12, Block B, Brunswick Park Trading Estate, Brunswick Park Road,
Let's grab that chair here, Thomas.
Wednesbury.
Yeah, you must.
Can members please indicate whether they have been lobbied on this application?
Yes, Chair.
Steph, would you like to go through
Yes,
to members and ask whether it's applicant or objector, please?
Councillor Jones, were you lobbied by applicant or objector?
It was the objector.
Thank you. Councillor Dalu, applicant or objector?
Objector, please.
Thank you. Councillor Chidley, applicant or objector?
Objector.
Councillor Rouse?
Green.
Councillor Rouse, you're on mute.
Yeah, objector.
Thank you. Councillor Downing?
Objector.
Councillor Allen?
Objector.
Councillor Miller?
Objector.
Councillor Ahmed?
Objector.
Councillor Hughes?
I haven't received anything on this at all.
Okay, so you haven't been lobbied then?
No.
Okay. So just to summarise, is that all members of the committee except for Councillor Hughes?
Now, Councillor Sims was lobbied by the objector.
Okay. Councillor Chidley, were you lobbied by anyone other than the objector? Councillor Chidley, you're on mute.
No. Sorry, I put my hand up by mistake. Sorry.
Okay, so you were lobbied by the objector?
Yes. I was.
Okay, thank you. There's no more hands up now, Chair.
Thank you. Can we go to John then for any updates on the report, please?
Right, yes, thank you, Chair. As regards the reports, members, no change to the recommendation. However, in the table papers, by way of additional information, we've appended the enforcement notice that was served on the property back in July. And again, by way of further information, we've listed a planning application that related to this unit, which dates from 1999 and was for a taxi booking office. All right, thank you, Chair.
Chair, sorry to interrupt. Just before we move on, just to reiterate that Councillor Heatherton declared an interest in this item at the start of the meeting, and so she's left the meeting for this item.
Right, thank you, Steph. In that case, then we have two speakers. One, Mr. Hevercombe has registered to speak on behalf of the objectors, and Mr. Bandal has registered to speak as the applicant. So, Mr. Hevercombe, are you there? Mr. Hevercombe? Mr. Hevercombe been accepted into the meeting, Steph?
Yes, he's in the meeting, Chair. He's on mute.
Right, Mr. Hevercombe, could you remove your mute, please?
Sorry, Chair, I've removed it now.
Oh, that's right. Okay, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you. Chair, this must be the only plan application to the Planning Committee that we've been asked to approve when a planning inspectorate appeals decision strongly supports refusal. Members will be aware from the report, the authority refused planning permission for car repairs and tyre sales in a unit in the main Brunswick trading estate. That unit's a substantial building. The walls are 4 foot thick and the entrances face a cemetery. The difference between this application is that this application is actually a former office, and the entrance to it faces the residence houses in Derby Road, and much of nearly all of the work is done outside. But despite this, the application in the main trading estate was still refused. Another important difference is the inspector's decision was more than 30 years ago, and one of the reasons for refusal was ponzi parking because of the number of units that were operated. The difference now, of course, is there are a lot more garages based in that trading estate, so there's lots more issues with parking. And it's because of this that members the MP and residents, and some of those in the units have actually complained for years about the amount of traffic and the amount of parking in the area. The application you are considering today is actually going to be in what used to be offices, and the only relevant application that you have, I think, has been tabled now was DC/99/3610, that was for a taxi rank on Unit 12. When that was approved, there were actually conditions put in place to protect the immunity of the area and stop items being stored outside. These conditions were aimed at protecting residents in Derby Road from nuisance from a taxi office. Neither Unit 12 or the trading estate have or has ever had Class B2 planning permission, yet 5 or 6 car repair businesses are on site, including those on Unit 12, none have permission. Some have a 10-year immunity, and these older established businesses operate correctly and cause little or any nuisance. Having said this, parking is a big problem, and these businesses have raised concerns about the amount of garages that are allowed to operate from the site. The applicant has failed to comply with enforcement. He has not responded to the SS330 and failed to observe the notice to cease. Failure to respond within a specific timescale is a criminal offence, which can result in prosecution in a magistrate's court. The amount of pollution and noise from Unit 12 is unacceptable. The site is open 7 days a week, at least 12 hours a day, including bank holidays. Those on site work outside, repairing, scrapping and building cars. These practices cause pollution that is very harmful to residents' health. Alarmingly, those using the site build hot rods and racing cars, and I can hear them, and other residents can hear them leaving the site, racing up and down Hunts Park Road past the entrance to a local park. This site is also used by recovery vehicles 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. One of these businesses specialises in buying vehicles with no keys, and we can frequently hear car alarms going off. You can see in the report photos have been taken of the site showing work being done. On the occasions they meet people on site, enforcement officers allege they were advised by those on site they were not working. So what are they doing on site if they're not working? There is still no clarity on that. Sorry?
Just 1 minute left.
Okay. There's still no clarity about the people on site, whether hobbyists or whether actually employed by the person who owns it. The applicant does have similar businesses in other areas. I think he's got one in Wednesbury North. Could the reason we experience so much nuisance be because he doesn't want to cause nuisance in Wednesbury North? The racing cars and mountain bikes are incredibly loud, and people complain about them on social media from miles away. The effects of this nuisance is a nightmare, and particularly bad during lockdown when none of us could use the back gardens, and sometimes the noise is so bad you can hear it in your house. And I'm just saying, closing Chair, I have sent members information, but none of the information that I've sent, it's all been seen by members. Sorry, it's all been seen by planning officers, all of this. And if planning officers had got back to me today in a timely manner, I would have shared it with them, but they failed to do that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Evercombe. Right, Mr. Bamdale, you have 5 minutes to speak.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
I've got Jason Beale here as well. He's the tenant of Unit 12. Just let you know. I mean, these allegations he's making are baseless, really, because there's no solid evidence. And he's on about half of Wednesbury, because I think we're on about Unit 12. He's on about a load of places, isn't he? This is where the confusion is. We're on about Jason's unit. He's got unit number 12. And I've never known it to be offices since we've owned it. We've owned it for about 25 years. That unit's never been an office. It's always been a unit. So I don't know where the confusion is. And I mean, Jason's here. Feel free to ask him a question. It's not a problem. And we are working with the council's reads. I mean,
we've had the council out on probably 15 different occasions now. 15 occasions they've been out. They've never found nothing wrong with the place. We've made the place look more respectable. There was something about the blue sheets that have been put up around the yard. I put them up so the residents didn't have to look at the yard. They can be removed quite easily to comply with yourselves. Yeah, I mean, I've got a family to go home to. The yard shut at 6 o'clock, and that's the end of it. I don't do nothing else for the rest of that night until the next day. I mean, there's several occasions this person's put, pieces up all over Facebook about me. I have the printouts of this as well. racing up and down the road. I can't control what people do on that road. There are a lot of motorbikes on that road that go up and down that road all day, every day. This is Friar Park, you know. And there ain't really much more I can say about the situation.
And in all fairness, that doesn't mean it's one of my tenants in their motorbikes. It could be anybody. I mean, that's about it, really. Because it's on about several units. We're only on about discussion unit 12.
About unit 12.
Because I've got a handful of units there, you see.
Right, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
John, is there any highways or public health updates?
Chair, there's no specific updates. Clearly, there's a lot of issues there. There's a lot of things to discuss, isn't there? I mean, colleagues from highways and public health are in attendance. So if members do have specific questions, I'm sure. As I say, colleagues from Highways and Public Health would be more than happy to answer those. Just picking up on a point the objector just made, when he says that if officers had asked today in a timely manner, we would have got this extra information. Not quite sure what that means. I do know the case officer did exchange emails yesterday with the objector, and here we are 5 to 6 on the afternoon of the planning committee, and officers still haven't seen this information. It may well be that there's nothing new to add. Until we see, we don't know. But more to the point as well, for yourselves as decision makers, this information needs to go consistently across the board to all members as well. Clearly, at the start of the meeting, Chair, some of your colleagues had indicated that they hadn't received this information. So if not all members have received this information, then I would suggest that it's not taken into consideration. But I'm sure colleagues from Legal and Governance could advise a little bit further on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any members of the committee have any questions?
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Dallow.
Yeah. Question to Simon. Have you got any problem with the highways in that particular area, please?
Thank you, Councillor. I mean, obviously, we're looking at what's being put in front of us for this particular application, and as I understand it, the business use has been taken away from this, so it's just for personal use. When we look at that, because there is no public going there to visit a business, obviously, we feel there's enough space there to keep all vehicles off highway. There is now double yellow lines for quite a substantial amount outside the property on both sides of the road to protect that. It is a temporary permission, so for us to monitor if there is any issues, but we don't particularly have an issue at the moment. There is enough area on site to store vehicles, and there are 2 units within which to work. But as I say, this is, as I understand, it's not for business use, it's just for personal storage. So we, in Highways at this moment in time, don't have an issue with that, this particularly what's put in front of us.
Thank you, Simon. Stephanie, you have a comment?
Thank you, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dallow.
Chair, it was just to confirm what John said and reiterate that the planning committee shouldn't be relying on information that's not available to all parties in determining this application.
Right, thank you. I must make committee aware that any emails that you received over the weekend concerning this application, I didn't actually receive them myself, so I don't know what you've actually seen. I just wanted to make that point available to you all. We'll go to Councillor Allen. You have a question.
It's more of an observation as to what has already been said. We've obviously were inundated with an awful lot of information, and it was quite explicit. It was quite long. It was quite focused, which was good. But unfortunately, it needs a balance. We need to, as has been pointed out, it's not gone to all councillors. It hasn't gone to the applicants. It would be very rash of us to consider, I believe, making a decision tonight until we have had a response from the applicants and a response from any officers within the council regarding all of that information that's been put forward, for us to have that included in a pack at a future committee where we all have had a chance to read it, assimilate it, and the responses from officers and from the applicants, and probably, no doubt, further responses or information from objectors as well. So, I mean, I might be presumptuous at this stage, Chair, but I mean, I would think rather than prolong the agony, I would sort of respectfully propose that we actually defer this until all of this information has been shared, assimilated and responded to, and back to this committee without fear of retribution if we make a decision or when we make a decision at some future planning committee. So, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
I'll bring John in to answer that one. Please, John.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chair. Councillor Allen, it's a very relevant point you make. Any additional information, particularly if members are basing decisions on this additional information, as I say, it might not raise any new issues until we as officers see it. We don't know. Similarly, in the interest of transparency and fairness, the applicant has to see it as well, right? And you're quite right. You've received, from as I understand, you've received quite a lot of additional emails in a very short space of time. Deferment is an option, and that's something that members can decide on this evening. The only thing I would say, just a slight caveat to that, as you know, we are there's a timescale in which we are given to deal with planning applications. This application has exceeded that time limit, so in deferring the application, there is the potential, and I say potential, for the applicant to appeal for non-determination to the planning inspectorate. And if that's if indeed they choose to follow that course of action, then it clearly takes the decision away from planning committee. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Councillor Pam Hughes, you have a question?
Yes, I'd just like to state that I didn't receive any details regarding this, and I think other people of the committee did. Also, I understand that the thing of the double yellow lines has been dealt with. They've been painted on there now, so there's not less problems with the parking there. And I'm quite in agreement with Councillor Allen that I would like to be deferred. Okay, thank you.
Right, thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Chidley.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think I'm in agreement with Peter and Pam regarding the deferment. But John, you said that we're at when is the actual deadline that we've got to consider this application?
John, would you like to answer?
Yeah, I will do, Chair. I'm just double checking the. If you just bear with me, it's it has gone. I mean, the application was received on the 7th of July. Now we will have 8 weeks to determine the application. So that 8 weeks would have been what we're talking July, August, the beginning of September. So it is already beyond the determination date. So any time now, the applicant does have the potential to appeal to the planning inspectorate unless they want to grant us an extension of time.
Thank you, John.
What do you think, Pete, then, in consideration of that, the applicants can appeal?
Yeah, can we have some other contributors, please?
Sorry? Pete, what do you think? Or what does anybody think about that, then, that the applicants can appeal against it? I mean, do we defer tonight, or do we make a decision?
Councillor Jones.
Yeah. Can I just come in here?
Yeah.
As far as I understand it from what John just said, we've had this application in from, what was it, July the 7th or something, and we haven't determined it in that time. So the applicant could have gone at any time after the 8-week period to the planning inspector for self-determination. I'm sure the applicant, by coming here, doesn't want to do that. But in fairness to the applicant, he needs to know what the objections have been so he can respond. I think it's a bit disingenuous to put the committee in a position whereby the statutory time frame has been lapsed and then say that we might then, you know, run the risk of it going to an appeal if the applicant has so minded. I'm sure the applicant wants to get this through the planning committee with respect to that, but he also needs to know what the objections are in full. I do know that the department sent something out this afternoon, which presumably should have been in the pack anyway, because it was a previous application that had been put forward and that there had been conditions laid on that, which this committee wouldn't have known unless the objector had told the officers to do. So I think we're at where we're at, but I see Mr. G has got his hand up, and I'd really want him to say, yeah, let's defer and let's have a look at the objections so that we can then meet the legal requirement in those things. But I agree with Pete's Councillor Pete Allen and Jenny and that, and Councillor Pam Hughes. If we've had the information which is needs responding to, because there are some serious matters in those deliberations that we need to make, then we need to be doing that with the applicant's knowledge of it and how we can then respond correctly to it.
Right, would committee like us to take legal advice so you know where you all stand?
Chair, I think the applicant wished to speak on whether he would like a deferment or
Be
not.
technical, Councillor Jones, you need to ask the applicant a question. He's had his 5 minutes speaking.
Yeah,
It's the committee to ask the question.
Yeah, I'll ask him that question.
Right.
As the applicant, you haven't had the opportunity to see some of the emails and evidence that's been provided. And again, we as a committee obviously want to do a fair process. So if we defer at the moment, are you willing for us then to look at the evidence and come back at another date so that we don't run the risk of the planning inspector refusing or not in your circumstances? If you can answer that, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, that's fine, because obviously I've never been shown any objections, so I don't even know, and I'd rather work with the council anyhow, so I would prefer deferring it.
Right,
on
thank you.
that basis, I'd support Councillor Allen and Councillor Chigley and Councillor Pam Hughes.
Just bear with me, I just need to go back to Democratic Services. Stephanie?
Thank you, Chair. It was just to let members know, to remind members that we do have a motion to defer on the table, moved by Councillor Allen and seconded and seconded as well. So you can move to a vote on that if you want to.
Right, in that case then can we move to a vote, councillors? Can you please raise your hand if you you're in agreement of the application to be deferred?
Chair, that appears to be unanimous.
That's unanimous, so the application has been deferred. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bandel, that's been deferred, so you were more than welcome to stay for the rest of the committee if you wish, or leave as you so wish.
I'm off the leave because we can talk on emails in the future.
Okay, thank you very much for attending.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Right, agenda item 6, applications determined under powers delegated to the Director, Generation and Growth. The report noting and sets out the decisions taken by officers since our last committee meeting under the delegated powers set out within the council's constitution, and we thank all our officers. And agenda item 7, decisions of the planning inspectorate, and there was just the 2 which I believe yes, I think they were
both were dismissed, Chair.
they were. That's the word I was looking for, John.
Yeah,
Thank
which
you
is
very
good
much.
news. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, members, and we'll see you at the next meeting next month. Thank you very much for
Yeah.
attending.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank
I
you.
just?
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Hi, Steph still on?
Yeah.
Yeah. The previous, when it was the minute.